series. This man up here has been an absolute monster today. Serral barely made it past him. In the top right, representing Kaizi Gaming, the Terran Monster INnoVation.
And his opponent in the Southwest, winning a brutal 2-0 series over time, she is Scarlett. Brave Star. All right, Pig, I just have to say it, though. Like, if I'm almost embarrassed. I guess people think it's weird if we do stuff like this, but man, if I was one of these players, like, wouldn't you want to deliberately put something funny or silly in the background of yours, right? Like Nina had her cat, right? You know what I mean? Like, get one of those weird graphics things and just have it be like, oh, there's like a shark swimming around in the background of my room or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Get a full-size cutout, like, cardboard of day 9 or something, smiling at the thumbs up, and just stand it in the background, like
like a little Chris Farley stand up in the corner, you know what I mean? Like, freak people out. Get like put like a filter over it so it occasionally just gets like staticky and people are like, what is going on? I don't know.
Oh my god.
I have a little too much free time, I guess, these days. But
well, I'm sure some players will start to show some stuff off, but for now, it's all about the adaptations here. You know, I think INnoVation's going to come at this series with a very similar approach that he had in the first one, which is, hey, guess what? I am going to make a bunch of Hellions. I'm going to pressure you, and then I'm going to just, you know, go straight up to 4 base, get out my Bio-Mine Tank Thor, and then, you know, methodically push you from 2 sides of the map at once. As Serral said, it's really hard to fight against, and we kind of discussed in that interview. Serral was like, well, maybe, you know, he's like, well, you can't really run by, except maybe you could go through the middle of the map since his armies are on the edge, but it's still going to be really dicey, and, you know, it seems really hard to play against this with Mutiling Bane, and he kind of had to go Hydras to adapt. Is Scarlett going to take the beef out of his book, or is she going to keep trying to make the mutas work?
That's a really good question, actually. I wonder how... I do wonder if we're gonna see that tech switch like that you were talking about, because Scarlett's, in terms of mixing it up, we've really only seen the one, I would say, like one really out of left field type setup, which was when like that Roach Ravager Nidus attempt, right, in game number 2 that led us into the 30 minutes of madness. But it's a hard call. I want to see INnoVation do this Reaper or the Hellion Raven thing again, though. I want to see him do the Raven Hellion. I want to see that map control. I kind of want to see someone like execute this even better, if that makes sense. Like in StarCraft, people come up with new stuff, but the new stuff is as good as it can be for not being common or practiced against. It can also be as good later on when you've kind of got the mastery of it, even if the other player is more used to it, if that makes sense. Kind of like how the way that battlecruiser rushes work now is very different than when they were first being done. You generally won't see everybody always just teleporting directly into the mineral line unless they've like proxied the fusion core or something and like really caught them off guard. Usually it's a much more conservative approach, or you walk it across and let it teleport home, but you still see it. It's just the way that both players' mastery at controlling and dealing with it interacts with each other just kind of leads to a different play out situation.
Notice that INnoVation there scouted through the whole main base. He also denied Scarlett's Overlord on the high ground, so she doesn't have any info on what he's up to behind this. He's denied her info, and he goes straight Raven, and that's because his Reaper went through and saw nothing but drones. Looked like a really normal build order. He was looking for a Roach Warren or any sign of a big Ravager Ling attack. You know, that's obviously what you're weak to with this build. So he was kind of just keeping his eyes open, going, do I think I maybe need to get a safety Banshee? I've done this opening a bunch of times. There's a good chance Zerg is going to try to kill me with Ravager Zergling. Let's get a Banshee for safety, but his Reaper's confirmed, doesn't need it. Hellions are here, Ravens on the way across the map, up to the 3 barracks, double engineering bay behind it. It is a nice setup for INnoVation. Scarlett responding now with a lair, but this is an almost 5-minute lair starting. She's going up to 9 queens. So I was talking about how you can defend this with mutas. If you don't, you split the queens between 2 different paths. Scarlett does that, but accidentally splits one of those queens. Ooh, does get the transfuse, though. Actually going to get a lot of damage on the Raven. Oh, this works out for Scarlett. That is absolutely awesome. The accidental queen bait from Scarlett. She misrallies it to the middle, and her mistake turns into misfortune for INnoVation. A lovely little engagement for Scarlett. Shuts down the Raven.
Yeah, that's as much as you can ask for. And look at that. It's the prize is the production tab of 10 plus drones, 11 drones around the world, filling those mineral lines of Scarlett. And she is gonna lose a couple tumors to that scan, but that scan costs a whole lot more than the dead Raven. So unfortunately, yeah, about as awkward of a spot as you can be. And there's that 77, by the way. 2 depots just started. And I think, yeah, supply drop by INnoVation to get his production moving again.
All planned. Pros don't make mistakes, Nathanius. You're here to make them sound good, okay? Remember your job.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I love these moments where you just get reminded that they're mortal, you know? It's like even that last game of Scarlett versus Time, I was like, oh, I've lost lots of games like this where a Terran just out multitasks me with drops and I was way ahead, and then a few minutes go by and I'm defending and then I'm not ahead, and then I'm like, how did I lose this game? So there was a moment where I was like, oh, it's good to see a top pro gamer, one of the best in the world, have that rare moment of mortality where the opponent comes back against them. But for INnoVation there, you know, one slight supply cap in the midst of otherwise very good macro with the opening, but I mean, just the fact that he's dumping all these scans. Oh, it's such a better start for Scarlett. She's looking awesome.
And that's the thing. That's the thing, Pig, is it's not just the scans. It's the scans, it's the supply block, and the depot drop, right? That's a tremendous amount of energy that is not going towards the income. And Scarlett has a healthy income lead. Nothing insurmountable at the moment, but she is definitely in the driver's seat as far as economy goes. INnoVation needs to get some work done here. That armory is not ready just yet for these Hellbats or the Hellions, excuse me, to transform into Hellbats.
Baneling speed's about to kick in here. Centrifugal hooks. That is the Baneling speed upgrade almost ready. Scarlett splitting a lot of her army to come in from the top side. And this is an overextension, I think, from Inno. I think she's ready to pounce. Queens go forward. They're going to start tanking, and it's time to go, Scarlett. Queens take a lot of siege tank shots, and look at that. Lovely surround. Baneling's going to find the Marines.
Ooh, good target fire on the rest of them, though. Once INnoVation got off creep, he actually did a really good job target firing down those units of Scarlett. There's still 4 medevacs here, so if there's any real damage that gets done, the retreat possibility is still somewhat there. The Mutalisks coming out will complicate that, though, but INnoVation's off creep, just needs to spread and target those veins. Decent amount of Marines still left, so Mutas are going to have to retreat.
This was such a good start for Scarlett. It's still not bad for her, but suddenly, how is he maintaining this push? I think even she's at a loss for words right now. She hasn't started her 2-2 while Scissors on the way. She's got to hold on against this army.
One Baneling connection with the bio, but the majority of them were picked off by that tank focus fire. I think INnoVation realizing it is time to check out. Does not want to have to accrue any late fees in the form of his army getting slaughtered, but it does appear to be so. One tank picked off. Those medevacs are very low, so the Mutas, if they just stop and turn, can smack him down, but wants to chase with the Banelings onto those Marines. And Scarlett looking in fantastic form for game number 1. That was painful. That right there, if you're ever like, oh, what does overextending in StarCraft mean? Just send them this replay. Send them the clip of that right there. The part where it's like, where Pig is saying, I just can't believe that he's still with this push. And then you watch the push die, and then INnoVation dies, and you're like, yeah, that right there, officer, that's the moment where INnoVation needed to turn around.
Yeah, I mean, it was a hard situation from the start, right? Where obviously he's behind, but he traded well, and you're absolutely right. He needed to pull back, get those numbers together again, and get this swap into things like, you know, drilling claws, the second factory going, and get those efficient units. But with Scar, I mean, she's on 90 drones. She's got a 6th base on the way. And this all comes back to the, you know, that early game was just dominant, crushing performance from Scarlett. And yeah, if a Raven, normally we talk about it as not being as hard hitting, and Zergs can kind of just build a few extra queens and drone a bit harder because there's no real punch to the Raven, right? Compared to a Banshee or whatever. In this case, it was like, well, not only that, the Raven just died before it did anything. And it was like, oh no. Like, where this is a tempo matchup. Yes, Scar looked outplayed by Inno in the previous games, where he really had his way with the early game. this is a different story. You know, without that tempo behind him, cannot keep up with the numbers that Scarlett is producing.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard to see a world where he ever does. If I'm Scarlett right now, what I'm thinking about is pushing those creep tumors towards that 4th base. And if you can just put any amount of real pressure on that in denial, you're really opening up a lot of doors. These Banes want to crash into the wall. Good reaction time by INnoVation. Loses 1 depot, though. Might lose a few more on the other side of that. Scarlett starts to pull back a little bit. But a 4th base denial would be awesome. If I say that anything is really nice for INnoVation in this situation, though, specifically on this map, it's going to be hard to dislodge that 4th. If this was any other map, I think that 4th base is very difficult for our Terran player to grab, and things get a little bit dicier. But Ice and Chrome is considered to be Terran favored specifically for that reason. Getting up to 4 bases is easy. That's the target economic point for Terran in this matchup. And from that position, you can pretty much do anything, as evidenced by that insane game number 2 from the last match. But Scarlett has so much. She's going to try and overload the north side with this army. Widowmine dragging over the Marines. They're all at red health. The Lings, the Banes, the Mutas swarming over that 3rd base. And INnoVation running the rest of his forces back home to try and defend. He does move out as well. So trying to simultaneously deflect this while putting on more pressure. But the Widowmines not burrowing in that mineral line quite when they needed to. 3rd command center was killed, not even able to save it. And this just looks completely bleak for INnoVation. I don't know what he does from this position. That was a massive, catastrophic loss.
Yeah, I was about to start talking about, I think Scarlett's missing a window where she really should be using her insurmountable advantage. Like, this is the sort of moment which Sue would never let go by, right? Because Sue always commits, whenever he thinks he has an advantage, even slightly. And Scarlett was kind of umming and ahhing, but then the moment stepped out just a little bit with a few units, she pounced. And that was awesome, because it let him spread his army out a bit too much, and it allowed her to take this very crushing engage on that base. And oh gosh, that's more Banelings than there are Marines and Marauders. Oh my.
Yeah. Well, to quote a certain Artosis, I would say so many Banelings. But they're not going to connect with the bio just yet. I mean, INnoVation's army's still not bad. We should keep in mind that he has 3-3 versus Scarlett's 2-2. So just Ling Bane is not as hard as it typically would be to deal with. But when that transition into the Broodlords happens, and then we all know how it goes, the Broodlords have that big range advantage over the bio. And then if you try to run your Marines under Broodlords when there's 30 Banelings under them, you did.
I don't think I could put it in a better way, Nate. You did, indeed. That's a ton of Ling Bane. The Thors are not in high-impact payloads. They're not in the anti-Broodlord form. And the Banelings here are going to crash through and take out the Marines on the ground. Muta's going to clean up from behind, and with that, Scarlett takes map 1.
GG, baby. GG, well done. Well done there by Scarlett, taking that first map decisively from the very beginning of the game. It was interesting because when I asked Cyril earlier about the Raven opening, what he said was that INnoVation's control is not that great with it. And he said, I don't think the build is bad. I think INnoVation didn't really play this, the way, wasn't really careful enough with those units. And we see it again here in this game, where Scarlett kind of punishes that same weakness that even Cyril pointed out, that Notice called out for us, and that Raven not able to have the impact that it needed. And when you make an investment like that, 200 gas that early on, right? That could have been your setup to go for a BC. That could have been a Banshee. It could have been so many things, but what it ended up as was nothing, right? At the end of the day, it just didn't really generate the value for what it cost to get the Raven out that early. And I do hope that we can see a little bit maybe tighter control in that opening from INnoVation. If he wants to take this series back, it's going to need to have a much more clean early game.
100%. Got to take care of that. It's very funny, I'm sure there's someone out there saying that was a big brain bait by Scarlett, sending her 1 queen out. Nope, it was absolutely a mistake. And it baited it into a bad fight at the start of that game. But gosh, did it turn in her favor. Barely keeping the queen alive, getting the Raven, and it was a good start. But I mean, that's a 1 in 20 games. You're not going to get that again here. And it's also a smaller, tighter map where Terran players are much happier. So this man up here, no doubt, is going to be out with a vengeance. In the top right, in the red, representing Kaizi Gaming, the Terran, he is INnoVation.
And his opponent in the bottom left, the blue Zerg player leading this decider match 1-0. She is Scarlett. Scarlett.
Got some nice shadows there on her webcam. Got a bit of a dark versus light situation. INnoVation bringing the clinical clean Terran play. Scarlett, I think she might bring some dirty Zerg tricks out here in game 2.
Hell yeah. I mean, Scarlett played really, really well there. I can kind of see how the game 2 with time was a little bit more awkward, I think, especially with the ping maybe to the Asia server. I'm not 100% sure as to Scarlett's physical location right now, but we're playing these ones on West, I believe it is, on the US server. So it's trying to balance it out a little bit,
I believe.
So I think probably feels a little bit more comfortable with the control on those units. That might be why we saw that lean on the Roach Ravager.
Yeah, Roach, I mean, it's a good timing. Got a bit overeager, right, though, trying to finish it after her Link Flood did some damage. So definitely a little overeager. We'll see how it goes here. INnoVation has been rather conservative with his Hellions, right? So I wouldn't be thinking about a Ling Flood against Inno, because he just kind of sits at home with his first 4 Hellions, and then he's like, okay, I'll move out as I wall off with my 3rd command center and my Raven pops. And you're like, oh, okay, that's like, there's actually 0 opening at all. Like, INnoVation loves his consistency. He doesn't like to leave things down to chance. And he's not a big fan of letting the Zerg disrupt him. You know, back when every Terran was blocking the 3rd like crazy, and even players like Maru still love doing that with engineering bays and bunkers and stuff. Inno was the first to be like, no, I don't like it when they run their Lings across and disrupt my natural while I'm committing to this. Like, no. He just sends his SCV home after he scouts every game. He wants his opening to be very similar time and again. He wants that repeatability because he has such a deep knowledge after so many thousands of repetitions of this opening line.
And here we go. Here we go. This is the new meme for TVZ. I don't really know that I can deal damage trying to attack you because it's very difficult. So I'm just going to play mega greedy. And if you want to all in me and risk throwing the game away on that, by all means, be my guest. So that 3rd command center comes in stupid fast. The 2nd gas will be built in the natural instead of the main base. So I suppose an overlord checking the main would be a little bit confused if it didn't look at the natural. So there's a little bit of trickery perhaps mixed in there at all. And that starport timing, we could still see something else. There's no overlord there to be spotted by the floating barracks, sadly.
Yeah, the overlord's just chilling out front the base. I like that. It's just like, yeah, I'm just going to see when your Hellions come out. That's all. Maybe could go in for a sacrifice, but no commitment just yet whatsoever. Starport is building itself a tech lab. Hellion production is well underway here. And
probably
INnoVation just macroing on up. Scarlett going super heavy on the queens, already on her way towards 6 queens.
Yeah, it's probably for that Raven. I feel like there's a world where you mind game yourself and you're like, man, I went for the greediest build ever. Hellion Raven after the 3rd command center before the natural was done. Like this really is about as greedy. You just kind of want everything. This is the I want my cake and to eat it too build. You know, there's not really any corners not being cut in terms of the defense, just getting all the economy humanly possible while bolstering up for what's going to be like a contained play. But we can see with all of our wonderful vision casting this game that Scarlett is not going to do anything to punish this. There's not really, there hasn't been like an early Roach Warren or anything like that, because that's kind of the risk for Zerg, right? They don't really have the strongest all-ins. So if the Terran does something that says, well, you pretty much have to all in me or I'm going to have a nice, advantage off of this, that's always tricky for the Zerg. And that's usually the best thing that they'll do from this position is just crank out a ton of drones, try to get their upgrades and not take any damage from these Hellions if they can manage it.
So we are seeing quick upgrades and lots of queens. 9 queens once again. It's going to allow Scarlett to overpower the Raven and the Hellions. Notice she's splitting the queens. That's exactly how you do it against this Raven Hellion. Ooh, Inno is actually just going to commit to the fight. So that is one way you can get caught out a little bit, but I don't know if it was the greatest choice there. Hadn't really damaged those queens at all, already losing another Hellion. Creep can just be replaced now. And Scarlett, I think this is such a great way of responding to the Hellion Raven, is just get a few extra queens, split them up, and suddenly that Hellion Raven mobility that looked so good earlier looks kind of impotent now.
Yeah, Hellions haven't been good against queens since, I can't remember the date that patch came out in 2012 or whatever, but a really long time ago. A really long time.
When the queens had 2 range.
And the queen was 3, right? It was like 3 range.
Oh, 3, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it was like
it was like a slingshot.
They had that weird attack animation where they just use their claws. Now they shoot out these little like things. Yeah, so that's a really good point. If it's just the Hellions, that's kind of what I was talking about, though. There's not really a lot of punch in this type of build. It's more of a contained strategy. Killing a queen there is nice, but at the same time, that creep is still moving forward. He's going to bring the Raven back and repair it. This makes me happy. Well, please repair the Raven. But not throwing it away is definitely an improvement over the last game.
100%. Yeah, that Raven's going to get a lot of utility the longer you keep it alive. And you know, whenever a fight gets messy, if you can find the APM to just tell that Raven to get the heck out of there and run home to your rally point and then use it again in the next push, it's actually massive. It's just that Terran is usually so busy with everything else, they don't take care of the Raven, and we do, as Terran players, tend to let it slip away and die. Dropping the main, gonna find something, at least a few lings, but great micro by Scarlett. Queens are getting a lot of damage on those medevacs.
Ooh, gets another queen focused down. Banelings grab a few of those Marines. But at least one full medevac will be able to slip out, which is nice. We do have the Mutalisks production going into it. We got the +1 attack for them as well. So a bit of a commitment on dealing damage with these. But INnoVation, if there's one thing we can say about his play, actually Time did a really good job with this too. I'll just say that they both had the drilling claws and the second factory very early in the majority of their games. Really well done on that department. I like seeing it out of INnoVation just because drilling claws is, if your mines get caught or if they're showing up to reinforce the last second, the time difference that it takes between having and not having that upgrade can lose or win you games.
100%. The Hellions are on the north right now looking for a bit of a distraction run by. They kind of saved that army on the south, which is well done. Scarlett, though, she analyzed the replays. Remember I talked about how you know, it looked like she was waiting for him to pounce with these early momentum pushes off 3 base, and he never did it, and she just fell behind because he's rushing 4th base, 2nd factory, and now going 8 barracks. He does this every game. And I kept saying, hey, you've got to rush to 90 or maybe even 95 drones against this, and that's what Scarlett's done this game. Yeah, she just dropped back down to 85. She's been at 88, well,
you got to build stuff
for the last.
You got to make
minutes.
Buildings at times, unfortunately. Yeah, those drones have to wrap their bodies around these geysers, unfortunately, to mine from them. So that's going to cause a little bit of fluctuation.
Sacrifice for the cause of the swarm. But 10 more drones, 95 workers. This is what I'm talking about. I do think you can just get an insane economy against this style. Has she got it up quick enough, though? The 2-prong push is already starting. And this is where you've got to manage things very well. His bases are quite naked. Once again, I do think she's maybe missed an opportunity to do a run by her. That's the other secret. You know, she's got the economy. Does she have the position?
Oh, that mine shot drags super far. That was a phenomenal grab there by INnoVation with that Widow Mine. And the other nice thing in this situation is there's not the pressure to scan with that force that has the Raven. There's not as much of a pressure. Of course, if you want forward vision, I'm never going to complain about that. But it's nice to have that bit of utility. You can also, of course, drop the auto turret. That's 150 hit points that can tank. And a good amount of DPS for helping to deal with those Banelings. This has been my TED Talk about Ravens. Thank you for joining. And going to bring the Thor forward with that medevac, too.
All right. Yeah, Scarlett's going a bit too deep on the south side. Loses all her Banelings and now at a big opening. She's going to jump on the north to try and capitalize. She does take out the Widow Mine, so well done there. But the south side, I think she might lose this base. She's got very little there. Ooh, Banelings are morphing. She's got some Zerglings. But Inno is looking for more good fights. And the thing is, each time she lets him get position like this by throwing away those Banelings, this is where he's set up for an amazing engagement.
Yeah, I was going to say, this looks like a completely different INnoVation than game number 1 of this series, doing tremendous amounts of damage. Yes, that army dies, but if the medevacs can get away, you're going to be very happy. Trade a Thor to save 6 medevacs. That's fine. And the other nice thing in this situation, too, that's going to help is that with those bases being killed, you're kind of slowing down that growth to some degree. And the +3 upgrades, I will say those are going to be coming in a pretty good time for Scarlett. This is, it's not completely out of hand if she can stabilize the economy.
She's still got to do run bys. This is the big thing is, you know, the reason this style feels so unfair to play against, as Cyril pointed out, he's like, it feels like I can't do anything. And I really do think there's these massive openings on his bases. The Raven finally is going to fall. There's another Widowmine, gets a decent hit on the Banelings, trying to hold this choke point as Scarlett, but she cannot chase through those bushes. She loses her 6th base in the north for the 2nd or 3rd time here. INnoVation is being so good at controlling the map. Scarlett's respreading creep. She's kind of controlling things okay. Ooh, Marine Stakeout and Mutalisk, but they are going to now get shut down. And it's another big push on the south. But once it's a one-dimensional push like this, I think Scarlett's going to be able to actually micro way better when she's not getting stretched out. Now that she's taken care of the medevacs in the top left, I think she's going to be all right.
Now, a couple of those forward mines are going to get their shots baited out of them. There is still one available in the back, but Scarlett's had a hard time kind of maintaining a large army to the point where she could get a bank to make any kind of transition with. So Adrenal Glands is done. It's still just a 2-2 versus 2-2, so the Lingbane should have a good amount of firepower, but that's a lot of Marine Marauder that's split and spread out in the back, and even that Thor getting saved by the medevac. INnoVation's looking incredibly sharp this game. Kind of feels like he got mad after game 1, and he is really playing. Feels like just almost twice as fast as he was in game number 1. Just really bringing it here.
Yeah, these mutas are just not doing much. There's so many mutas. To go over 20 mutas and to not be diving mineral lines at all, this is just, mutas are such a dead weight in these engagements. They're doing so very little. The Thors keep getting scooped backwards by medevacs. Mines keep landing big hits. And Inno here with a beautiful spread and just crushes through. Devastating units lost at the end of that game. That was a 9,000 resources differences lost. And in just a 12.5-minute game, like, that's epic. That's massive. That was almost 2-to-1 cost efficiency.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Over 9,000 resource difference there between that game. That was absolutely brutal gameplay by INnoVation. Are we going into a break before game number 3? Yes, we are. We'll be right back in a minute. Give these players a second to cool down because things are heating up here at the DreamHack Masters. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are currently tied up in what has been a banger of a series. The decider match for Group D for daylight, as the sun is up and it's nice and bright. It's actually it's pretty cool out here. It's only 91 Fahrenheit outside today, Jared. So I'm having it's gonna be a nice Friday.
Hey, the sun will be up here in about 45 minutes or an hour as well. So it'll be good to be joining you, mate.
It's Saturday over there, right? You guys like cheat. You guys cheat time.
Yeah, it's almost 5 a.m. right now, but I am being fueled purely by awesome Zerg vs. Terran right now. And that's all I need, because this series has been sick. And I'm very curious to see this map because it is so often vetoed by Terran players. Let's see what Scarlett can do with it. Up here in the top left, in the blue, it is a Scarlett. Playing for Bravestar Gaming.
And her opponent in the southeast, the red Terran player. He is INnoVation. Yeah, wow. What a day. What a day. Terran versus Zerg the whole way through. Someone was like, from the other group or whatever, they're like, man, there's not enough Terran versus Zerg. I want to watch hillbillies with machine guns shoot space alien freak monsters that are full of blood bags. And there you go. Today you got it. Today you got your dream. All right. You got to watch the men in space fight the alien critters crawling up and down. There were no disgusting laser beams or teleportation. Nah, that's not true. There was a little bit of teleportation. But not the laser
It's not
beams.
a teleportation. It's a tactical jump, Nathanius. Hello?
Now I'm picturing some guy that's like, I've perfected the art of the tactical jump. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, if I jump with enough force, I can just appear somewhere else. That's how fast. So you're telling me that it's more of an instant transmission type thing than it is a teleport.
Yeah.
It's like Goku. Yeah. It's like, well, I just moved so fast that you couldn't see me moving, even though it doesn't really make any sense because you still have to move, even though it doesn't look like they're moving, right? Like,
yeah.
There's some serious problems with that logic.
Its strength may be propelled through like metal awesomeness. You know, they've got some sort of cybernetic phase shifter things. Whereas Protoss like, hey, we got magic and teleportations. It's all fine. It's like, get out of here. No one wants your silly teleportation. Terran, much more warrior-like than that. They're all about, you know, just shooting things, jumping around, attaching, you know, spikes to the side of their battle cruisers, and probably never taking a shower, even though they're stuck in that power armor for, you know, what I imagine is representative of weeks.
A long time.
Here, so still not sure about how that works.
Well, I mean, I don't know how long you've been playing StarCraft, but this game also doesn't have anything that can go in water when there's water on the maps. So how could you shower? None of these units can path into water. The Marine would go to like, you go to the locker room and you'd be like, as soon as the water appears, you're like, okay, I can't path over this, so I guess I just have to go around it. There you go.
Actually, you can have a little paddle. You can have a paddle. Think about Odyssey. Remember, Odyssey had like shallow water all through the middle, and your unit.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. You know, that reminds me of the classic meme map that no one ever used to shut up about. What was it? That beach map from 2011 or 2012 that everybody loved way too much. That right there. Oh no. I think Ohana did have water pools you could walk through, but there was a even older map than that. This was like, I can't. I'm struggling. Belshire, yeah, Belshire Beach. Right there.
Oh,
yeah. That one had paths to water. Yeah. I don't really think that you could completely clean yourself. Like, it's not a shower, obviously, but I mean, I don't know. I've washed myself in a creek before, so it's doable. You can make it happen.
Well,
I'm sure these guys
does go down a bit earlier this game. Did that
Roach Warren this time? Roach Warren and Banshee. So both players.
Ooh. You know, Ravagers can still kill a Banshee player if they just go one and they don't know for sure, right? There's no Evo this time, so this is looking like a classic Ravager Ling. Like, not going to bring Queens or anything like that, probably. And just going to go, what, probably like 7, maybe 8 Roaches into just a lot of Zerglings. 2-3 rounds of Zerglings. Make maybe 3 Roaches into Ravagers and just go. Wait, these Queens are out front. I'm wondering, can you still send Queens with this?
No way. Maybe?
It's definitely a
That's
commitment.
a
Scarlett's
bold
going to go
move.
hard on this. She's got a lot of supply free. So yeah, 8 roaches, 9 roaches, and from there it's going to be just Ravagers and Zerglings. Now she's got to hide this as long as possible. This is all about INnoVation finding out. Now the heavy creep spread and pulling all these queens out front is really good at disguising what she's up to. She pulls back that roach, make sure it paths to the left. Inno has no idea.
But he is building a second Banshee and gonna finish close. So it's not quite as cut and dry for a I'm just gonna kill you with my Zerg unit situation, especially because the Banshee is still at home. It was not actually sent out. So INnoVation is gonna have a pretty good amount of anti-ground from the air. Of course, the Ravagers can still throw biles. You still have to micro the Banshee and be somewhat careful with them, but it helps so much that you can eliminate the Ravagers very early on in this fight if you use your Banshees to just target fire them down.
Yeah, SCV's trying to hold the door there. SCV's being pulled to the front. Banshee's focusing down the Ravagers. Bile spread across. The Hellions and Marines come forward. Already 10 SCVs have fallen, but she needs a lot more than that. If she can't break this wall, the Zergling Reinforce does absolutely nothing. And that's a fantastic hold from INnoVation. 11 SCVs, and he's got Cloak Banshees for the counter pressure. He's still got Hellions and Marines guarding the natural. This is an amazing position.
And there's just the Queen. You've traveled a little too far, my lady. Yeah, well, the lair just starting kind of tells you everything you need to know about the way that this game is going. It's about halfway-ish, but the Evo chambers have only just begun. Those upgrades to the Terran are already 25 seconds deep, so INnoVation's going to find himself in a pretty good place after the end of all of this. Losing some workers sucks, but when you have mules and the same number of workers as your opponent, you're feeling good. Also, the spores aren't done yet, so drones are going to die. This is the worst case scenario.
You do not want to be losing workers here. Already being tied on equal workers with the third, up and ready. And yeah, I mean, it lifted off for a second there for INnoVation, a minute, but it's landed now, and INnoVation's going to start just dropping the Mule Hammer. It's not just that these Banshees are doing damage, it's the fact that they're still alive, they're ready for a follow-up. Scarlett's going to lose some Zerglings on a run-by attempt here. That's going to achieve nothing. And there's going to be 2 medevacs, Stim, Shields, and a whole lot of Marines coming across the map. And I mean, INnoVation, if he just chooses to, he can just rally units, and I don't know how she's possibly going to hold on.
This Banshee harass has been on point. I don't remember the last time I've seen Banshees do this well versus Zerg, but this game has certainly been one where they were worth building in multiple numbers. Big 1-1 just now starts for Scarlett. 1-1 is about to finish for INnoVation. So any sort of straight up head-to-head fight is going to look ugly.
68 workers is going to be where Scarlett caps out. Building a couple more roaches here just to add some meat to her composition, make things a little bit more complex and difficult, I guess, for INnoVation to take down. But already Banshee's clearing creep in the middle. I mean, the creep is so awesome. It's such a power of Scarlett. She's trying to swap back into Mutiling Bane here, making a few Ravagers, Zerglings up in the main, but the upgrade advantage is there. 2 upgrade advantage for those Marines. They might not have shields, but they will in a moment.
Yeah, Shields, I was about to say, about to finish, and the spawning pool being killed. That is the really, really nice pickoff, especially against Zerg these days, man. So many of the Zerg players really rely on these heavy lean compositions. It's so popular. Whenever you get a chance to kill the spawning pool, it's like driving a dagger straight into the heart of the swarm, and you've delayed everything that they want to do or they could do for the foreseeable future, because it's not just about the Lings, but the Lings are also what turn into the Banelings. There are some Zerglings still alive, which is very important because we do not actually have any Banes on the map. Speed is almost ready for those Banelings, which of course on creep is going to be really difficult to deal with. But if Scarlett can't get a 4th base up, this game is going to fall out of her hands very quickly, and I do not think she has anywhere near enough to stop this push that's coming.
You got to agree with you there, Nate. I think Scarlett's in huge trouble. 4th is going to be cancelled here in a moment. She already lost 3 Ravagers in the first double drop, and look at that. Uh-oh. Just too much firepower.
Yeah.
INnoVation here. Such good defense. He went the Banshees. He said, you know what? Final game is a good chance she'll cheese. And he went super safe with the opening. He held the natural wall, and now he's just so far ahead. He's building a 4th command center on location. Drilling claws on the 2nd factory. Thors. Bio, his 2-2, a solid minute and 20 seconds ahead of Scarlett's upgrades. equal workers with the Zerg. Banshee still alive on the right-hand side, and they have now passed 30 kills. They're up to 35 kills between them. That's incredible.
Super Banshee bros. That's what we've got going on in this game, Pig. They have been absolute anchors for this movement that INnoVation has been bringing this game. He's been doing so well, and Scarlett from the get-go with that attack has just been kind of trying to recover, hoping for a big mistake from the Terran, and INnoVation, despite diving in on that natural, which is usually a hard place to attack. Usually you're aiming at the 4th base or the 3rd base, but since Scarlett can't really get the 4th base anymore, I suppose he doesn't feel bad forcing the issue, but you know, enough banelings on creep will leave an opportunity for INnoVation to throw this, I suppose, but I don't know that he's going to. He's been controlling this really well. Those Banshees also are just absolutely terrifying. He's got that 4th command center done, turning it into a planetary. Immediately starts +3, so now he's got a double upgrade advantage again.
This is epic. It's just, you know, INnoVation here, relaxed, comfortable, playing yet another game of StarCraft to perfection. Widow Mines firing, Marines spreading back. Even though he's this deep on creep, he has far